right, everybody, welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined as always on Wednesday by, as Rod Babers calls him, the young prodigy, CJ Vogel. CJ, have you and Jordan had an arm wrestling match to see who gets that title or not?
No, but the way that he's going right now, delivering all this news, recruiting on the recruiting trail, I don't think I'm going to have that title much longer.
All right, we just got to make sure Jordan stays within the lines. We don't have to give him a sanction, and if we're going to give him the belt, if you're going to lose the belt, CJ, you need to make sure you lose it with honor and respectably. I have no doubt that Jordan will do that, and everything will be on the up and up. All right, we've got a ton to get to tonight. At some point here, I hate teasing stuff. You just learned this in the live radio business, CJ. Don't do teases because that usually means something's going to happen where it won't work out. Jerry Hamilton should be joining us here pretty soon towards the top of the show to talk about Ishmael Kamara, the really talented offensive line prospect out of Gilmer. CJ, an unprecedented move. He's not going to take official visits this summer. He's just doing away with official visits.
Yeah, pretty wild, right? I'm not sure I've heard that before, right? We've seen, like Jaden Blue was a way that, he set a precedent in a way, just opting out of his senior year. We've seen that before. We've not seen when kids are trying to make, their college decisions, they just said, hey, I'm not taking official visits anywhere. Now, he did transfer into the United States, right, from abroad to the U.S. He has needed to catch up on some of his high school paperwork, his schoolwork, to ensure that he could graduate early. Of course, some of those courses and classes that he was hoping translated over, well, Jeff, I can't speak to it. I've never transferred abroad, but it's not apples to apples, obviously. So he's doing everything he can to ensure that he graduates early and can enroll at the beginning of 2027, which unfortunately right now looks like his Sunday or his weekends in June, instead of traveling to Eugene or College Station or to Austin or to Baton Rouge, will be in a classroom. So that's what I understood of it, but we'll have Jerry on here in a minute to talk more about it.
Yeah, tentatively was a word used quite a bit today, CJ, down in Destin at the SEC spring meetings. Tentatively, Bobby Burton's going to join us too as well. So we'll get 2/3 of the coffee and football crew joining us. I don't know what Blake's doing tonight, but maybe Blake joins us. And CJ, maybe we can get that long-awaited producer-only live stream that I know the audience is clamoring for.
He can kind of sit this one out, right? Blake, what I mean by that, Blake can come in, he can just chat, he can just kick it with the boys. We won't need to have to worry about all the, the gadgets behind the scenes, which means no fingers on the mute button, which I think we'll all agree is a good thing.
He can be muted the whole night, and it's not going to matter at that point. So yes, absolutely. So hopefully Jerry joins us here in a little bit. Bobby's scheduled to join us as well. CJ, let's go ahead and get to it. I think you want to start with Notre Dame. And I actually, as we went live, I went through Chris Del Conte's comments, most of his comments today from the SEC spring meetings on CFP format and strength of schedule component. I said tentatively got thrown around quite a bit today. He said that tentatively, actually, we're going to shelve the Notre Dame talk because I believe Jerry Hamilton is here. So sorry for the tease on Notre Dame, but anytime we got big-time recruiting news, we need to bring in the big guns, as many guns as possible. So Jerry Hamilton joins us now. Jerry, we talked about it a little bit at the top with this Ishmael Kamara thing. Somebody just opting out of official visits. That's a new one, Jerry. You and I have been doing this a long time, Jerry. You longer than I don't think I ever heard of somebody just opting out of OVs.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And look, I think coming over to the States, he's got some class work he needs to get done to be an early high school graduate, right? So that's certainly part of it. The other thing with Kamara is he's visited everywhere multiple times. So it's not like not going on OVs, he's missing anything. I mean, how many times has he been to Texas A&M, Oregon? He's been to Oregon now. He's been to all those top target schools and the schools, SMU, the schools he's considering. And that doesn't mean he won't show up for game days, a Saturday game during the season or whatnot. But it is we're in a different recruiting world for sure. And not many people pass up the OV process. And what'll be interesting about this as this plays out a little more is does he go all the way to December? with this recruitment. And the one thing I can tell you that I thought was important, and I'm going to have to do this real quick. I got to get a cleaner screen for everybody because I'm already ugly enough as it is that the colleges weren't blindsided by this. His people reached out to the schools and let them know. So if a college was blindsided by this, they probably aren't really going to have a chance to get the kid right at this point in time. I can tell you Texas was not blindsided by this. Somebody reached out and let them know before this went public. So they did it. Him and his people did it the right way. They let the colleges know. So I think that's important to know because sometimes when things like this happen, you're like, whoa, I mean, did that come out of left field? Who knew, who didn't know? It's kind of like when a player shows up that's committed to a school and shows up at another game. If he doesn't tell the staff he's committed to, that can become an issue. I think that Kamara and his people did this the right way. They called the schools and let them know, look, this is what our plan is now. We've had a change of plan.
Jerry, Stephen Houston asked a question. I think I hate to have it boil down to this when we talk Ishmael Kamara, but I think this is kind of where it's at based on what we said here on the channel. I know you've been on top of this recruitment, Jerry. Jordan Scruggs has as well.
Yep.
Stephen Houston says, write the blank check for Kamara. He's the best prospect in the state to me. Jerry, this goes back to a conversation we had last night. We got a super chat that said, who's a prospect you were wrong on? And for both sides, wrong in terms of I didn't think there was anything really there or thought it was a long shot, and the guy ends up being a really good player, an NFL player, or I thought it was a can't miss and it didn't work out. Most of them, Jerry, that came up to me were offensive linemen. Quarterbacks came up a lot. Jerry, that position is still so developmental. I don't know how you can be sure, but you better be as sure as you can that he's Jordan Seaton, Kelvin Banks, and is going to come in and make an impact from day one if you're going to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing. As CJ, I comment on this too. I mean, I think that's the tough thing is when you're a 7-figure offensive line recruit, or that's what your desire is. And I'm saying this for guys that are ranked high because, well, why wouldn't that be their desire in the NIL world we're in right now? What does that investment look like? That is the tough thing right now. Look, I mean, I always go back to Jackson Cantwell going to Miami. The prices for him were talked about, whether it's true or not, how close it was, is over 2 in the 2.5 range. Well, is that guy going to sit for a year, or do you feel like, okay, we have to play this guy? And that's very important conversations with the prospect, his circle, his family. What is that expectation on your side? What is that expectation on their side? And I think that directly will direct you where to go with the recruitment. But if you're going 7 figures for an offensive lineman, there is a pressure to play that guy early, because that's where we're at now. And how many of those guys are truly ready to go in at an SEC level or a top 10 program level and walk in and be a starter day one? You think about the schedule Texas is playing this year. How many guys have you seen that were offensive linemen at Texas that as a freshman would be ready to play that schedule?
Mm-hmm. How many of them have cracked the 2 deep?
Yeah.
Right. It like Kelvin Banks has really just been the true outlier where it says, all right, I know for a fact you're going to be good. I think Cole Hudson was thrown into the fire his freshman year as well. But how quickly could you point to him and say, that is an absolute strength of my defense or of my offensive line going against these SEC defenses? You can't do it often. It's very rare. And that's why, it's something that, Jeff, we talk about it pretty often when it comes to high school recruiting. Making sure that these guys stay in your system year after year is probably more important than getting, the $1 to $2 million 5-star blue chip guy who could be an impactful guy right away.
Jerry, it's nature versus nurture. Like, is it the guy would he have been one way or the other, regardless of how you developed him, or did he need to be in a situation where, like CJ said, there's some consistency? And the 2 guys that stand out from both standpoints, Jerry, I was honest last night. Like, Hayden Connor was a guy that when Texas initially recruited him, I was like, man, I just don't know. But to his credit, he did an incredible job reshaping his body, got himself in a position to contribute. And he ends up being a draft pick. Likewise, Kent Perkins was one of those guys, Jerry, out of high school. I was like, man, this dude looks like an NFL offensive tackle now. I don't know how he's not going to be that guy, but multiple offensive coordinators, multiple offensive line coaches, inconsistency at quarterback. And you just wonder, man, if he had just a normal rate of development, how different things would have been. So, yeah, that position, Jerry, is still just such a crapshoot.
Yeah, no, it is. It's still a developmental position. There are not many guys that come out of high school where Kelvin Banks was. And that's the one thing I want to continue to say. Lifetime Longhorn Kenny Harrison, the head coach at Summer Creek, did a great job. He's a really good offensive coach. They did a great job developing Kelvin. Kelvin was always ahead as a pass protector. Then his senior year, man, a light came on. He became much more physical as a run blocker. But coming out of high school, there aren't a lot of guys that are that advanced. That, you know, I know it was a different time at Texas because it was almost like, hey, dude, ready or not, here you go. Yeah. But Kelvin Banks could have gone and competed early on at an Alabama, at a Georgia, on some of their really good teams. Like he could have gone in. It might not have been at left tackle, but he could have gone in and done it. But there are just very few guys that are actually like that. Yeah. And it's still, again, it's like, especially with the investment now, you know, I think the investment is pushing guys to say, why do I need to wait around? I mean, I'm ranked as a 5-star. You're paying me this. I should go in and day one, right? And look, Michael Fasusi did it. And so I think you got to pick the right school if that's your mindset. But I think from the school standpoint, those are just real discussions I think are really difficult, and decisions that are difficult to make, because how much are you going to invest there if you see a guy's not ready year one at a position, as a premium position as well. By the way, Stephen Houston's other question, what did you guys say to this? This is a good one. Did anybody have an answer there? I was thinking about that. Wasn't highly ranked.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last night. We had Marcus Myers on Tuesday. There were two guys on the offensive line to me that certainly exceeded the expectations that I had for them coming out of high school. I said Jake Majors and Logan Parr coming in. Look, Logan ended up being drafted. Jake ended up having the most career starts of any Texas Longhorn in the history of the program. That to me is exceeding expectations. But I think it's very easy to go back and look at what Devondre Sweat physically looked like coming out of high school, what he then accomplished and since has done in the NFL, and said, okay, that's a very easy answer as well.
But, Jerry, before you give your answer, just on Sweat, because you and I talked about this over the years, there's some high school coaches that when they tell you about prospects, like your ears perk up and you listen because they know what they're looking at. And Rodney Southern, who actually is back at Copper's Cove now, is one of those guys with all the stops he's been at. I remember him telling me about Devondre Sweat, like going into I think it's Devondre's sophomore year spring. He's like this guy is he's like the Charles Tillmans, Vontez Duffs, Durham Smythe. He's like those type guys. He's like Devondre's gonna be one of those guys. He's like I just know. So it's like, okay, check, and credit to Texas for offering him early. Now, did I think he's going to be a 350-pound athletic defensive tackle and win the Outland Trophy? No, I didn't think that. I don't think
just project that either, because not enough big schools offered it.
Yeah, exactly. But he had, I think Texas and Alabama were his two biggest offers, and it's really weird. Those were the two big power conference schools that stepped up and offered him.
Yeah, I'm going in the Wayback Machine, so it's pre-CJ, but Jeff will know this. There were two offensive linemen that Matt Brown signed that I thought had a chance to be special players. Kennedy Estelle from the early Pearland Dawson years when Dawson opened, and he was off to a good start and then had his off-the-field issues. That guy was 6'7", 300 pounds. You watched him work out. You watched him on a practice field. You watched him on a Friday night. Freaky ankle flexibility, knee bend, hip flexibility, all of it. He had it all as a prospect. Mm-hmm. And he had natural body quickness, reactive quickness. He did it to himself. The other one was even better, Jamarcus Webb. Now, Webb obviously had to leave Texas off the field.
Yeah.
His upside was ridiculous. His upside was so ridiculous, he almost screwed it up and still ended up playing 7-8 years in the NFL. Because I think where did he end up, Jeff? West Texas A&M?
West Texas A&M, and got drafted and ended up starting for a little bit for the Bears, yeah.
He was a guy that I thought, man, this guy could be a first-round pick coming out of high school. And I thought, CJ, he was out of North Mesquite. Mac owned North Mesquite. Aaron Harris, Terrell Brown, you name it. He got the top guys out of North Mesquite. Jamarcus Webb, I thought, was the most talented kid out of North Mesquite. that I saw during the MAC years, easily. But he had his stumbles, but he got it together in time to still make it to the NFL and have a pretty decent career. But that guy, Jeff, was one of the ones that Mac signed, and I was like, ooh, stud, absolute stud talent.
Jerry, you remember the Texas O-line class in 06? I'm not even looking at it, but I remember it was a 3-man class. It was Marcus Webb, Roy Watts, Buck Burnett.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Not a lot of good ROI on that on that O-line class. The other one I'll just throw out there. I know we got stuff to get done, but man, Jerry, it's unfortunate because he got into a legal situation where the charges were later dropped. Kendall Sanders should have been an NFL player.
100%.
Just
I wouldn't see him at Athens, either side of the ball, by the way.
As a corner or a receiver, just freaky hands, a great athlete, just kind of in that Jordan Whittington, Quandre Diggs mold where it's like, hey, just put him at a position and he'll figure it out and probably be pretty good. So Kendall Sanders is another. Jerry, you got time to hang out because we got a super chat that I want to get DJ's thoughts on it. We'll get to that here in just a second. But right now, I want to thank our lead sponsor for the Wednesday night live stream. That's Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Are you stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks of PTO and no control over the money you can make, your schedule in general? If that's the case, then call Andy. He'll take you through a process to help you find a business that'll fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And a big thank you to Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise for sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream here on Texas Football. All right, guys, if you got questions, comments, whatever, line it up. Super chats, as always, jump to the front of the line. Juan Garza with the super chat. Jerry and CJ, obviously want your take on this too. Do you think recruits care what Tech will say since money could trump whatever they say? I guess that's Texas Tech maybe negatively recruiting Texas. Not sure exactly the nuance of Juan's question, but where are you at, Jerry? We talked about that on the channel last week. Where are you at in the Texas versus Texas Tech recruiting battles?
Well, I think both are winning. First of all, CJ, I think they're winning. So when you're winning, I think a lot of things get bypassed when you're winning and when you're one of the top NIL programs. So, look, for Texas Tech battles, I would say this. I don't think kids care about that stuff. I don't think the NIL era has changed recruiting. I mean, the negative recruiting stuff, I don't think that happens as much anymore. I don't think people take those kind of direction in recruiting much anymore. I think the game has changed so much in recruiting. But I think when both those programs are winning, Juan, the best of my ability to tell you is I don't think that stuff really matters. I think, look, if you start stumbling on the field, that matters more than anything. But I don't think there's an effect on that right now.
Well, even then you start stumbling. And the only thing that in today's current landscape of college football, the only thing that truly trips up a program is if the funds get shorter. So that's something, I think what used to be the battles of Oklahoma and Texas A&M and Texas together for the top in-state kids, you don't see them as much, right? They're still there, but it's just such a transaction-based back and forth. It's really interesting.
Okay, so he said this. I mean, the whole gambling thing.
I don't think so. I don't think that's something that
wins. I don't think it matters.
I agree. I also don't think that's something that Texas coaches are using to negatively recruit against or even pitch. That's a very specific one-off situation, which, I mean, we'll see what legal situation comes of it, but I wouldn't expect to see much back and forth from Texas to Texas A&M between recruits there.
No.
Hey, the way those programs are positioned now, I've always been a believer. Hey, there's a reason Coke doesn't talk about Pepsi. There's a reason McDonald's doesn't talk about Burger King. Just on your own merits, Texas sells itself. Doesn't need to negatively recruit Tech. Jerry, thanks for the time again. Jerry was on here. Ishmael Kamara, the talented offensive lineman from Gilmer, opting out of official visits. More on that over on TexasFootball.com, and Jerry will have more on that bright and early tomorrow morning at Coffee Football. Jerry, real quick before Bobby comes on, just a final quick thought.
Yeah, look, I think the big thing with Kamara and the OVs is he told Texas and other schools ahead of time, so nobody was blindsided by it. There's an academic element to it to work to be a midterm graduate in December after he came to the States a little late, right? So he's got credits he has to make up. I think we'll see him on campuses for unofficial visits this year. I don't think we're not going to see him on any campuses, period, until he announces the decision. And the other thing with Gilmer, they're going to go deep in the playoffs again. So it's not like he's going to have a slate of official visits after the season when signing day is the first week of December and he plans on being an early enrollee. So I think you'll see him on some campuses unofficially during the season. That will serve as his visits. One could even be unofficial if there's an off week or a time for a couple of days.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Catch up with Jerry tomorrow morning on Coffee and Football, and he will be joined on Coffee and Football by Bobby Burton. Bobby joins us now live from Florida, the Destin Regional Metro area, whatever you want to call it, for SEC spring meetings. Bobby, there's so much coming out of these spring meetings. Chris Del Conte talking a lot today about the Notre Dame game and non-conference schedules. You know, Bobby, we can get to the governance part of this here in just a second, but I thought it was interesting going back and listening to the audio that you sent over from Chris Del Conte today. I thought it was interesting that the athletic directors and the coaches met with the executive committee from the college football playoff to go over, hey, the selection process. And Chris Del Conte said, yeah, it's good for our coaches to see how they do it, but you also walk out of that room with it murky as hell. Like you don't really know. So that plays into the Notre Dame game. He said it's tentatively on the schedule. So just a lot of unknowns still, Bobby, with the CFP and future non-conference schedules.
He said, having been there in person, he said tentatively, and it felt like there was a wink attached. And now he's on the record as saying tentatively. So I don't think Notre Dame thinks it's tentative, or at least they didn't when they said they were going to play each other. Now, maybe Notre Dame does think that now. And the two parties have been in communication about it. But look, college football right now is at a crossroads. It's been at a crossroads for 5 years, and people have just kicked the can down the road. That's largely what's happening here. So we're going to lose games like Texas, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, and maybe Texas, Notre Dame. Now, we wouldn't lose them. We're not losing them now when it actually might benefit Texas, by the way, if we lost Texas, Ohio State this year or Texas, Michigan even next year. But we are going to lose them eventually, it feels like. I don't like where this is headed. There are elements of this Ted Cruz, Maria Cantwell bill that feel forced and more anti-SEC Big Ten than maybe necessary. I've got to tell you, Del Conte with the Notre Dame thing was one thing. He also talked about, trying to just get some kind of stability. That was the one word he kept coming back to with us in that media gaggle, is he wants some level of stability so he can operate his program. That's what Steve Sarkisian asked for. Yeah. That's what Sean Miller mentioned. Just tell us what the rules are and let's go. The problem is anytime people don't like the rules, they just go to court. Gamble on a team, go to court. Don't worry that everybody that's ever been found gambling on their team has sat out at least an entire year. No, let's go to court and get a guy in Lubbock to adjudicate the issue. Don't like the fact that you were denied eligibility for a 7th year in college football? Don't worry, find a probate judge in the state of Mississippi. Let's get Trinidad Chambliss eligible. I mean, that's what Steve Sarkisian, that's what Chris Del Conte, that's what Kirby Smart, that's what a number of people here in Destin have echoed. Except, obviously Pete Golding today is like, oh, well, I don't really want to talk about it. I think it's very funny and we laugh and giggle because the reality of it is that it's just so hypocritical we can't even think straight. And to have Cody Campbell out there and the Texas Tech president, whoever that guy was that wrote that yesterday, that is a sad state of affairs for everybody on this planet, much less if you graduated from Texas Tech or went to Texas Tech. I mean, it's just sad.
It is. And what else is sad is you talk about the future of Texas's early marquee non-conference games. Earlier this afternoon, we saw another casualty in college football. Baylor and Oregon had a home and home for 2027, 2028. That's canned. I know that led into then the comments of Texas and Notre Dame with CDC. But, Bobby, is this, in your eyes, just the result of, hey, it's playoff or bust for everybody, regardless of the number? Because I look at what Greg Sankey said today when he said, look, the SEC is not close to a decision right now. They're not rushing into a decision in terms of where they see fit or what they prefer. They still sit at 16, but is this all just every school positioning themselves to find a way to just survive conference play, to put themselves in a position to make the playoff rather than give the sport good games?
That's what it feels like. That's one of the reasons why I sincerely think I want the SEC and Big Ten to break away. And I want elements of this bill to fail. I mean, I think that's what's best for the game. Right now, it's being governed for the masses instead of for the people that actually watch the games. And that's my feeling. They're trying to shoehorn in 138 teams. You can't tell me 138 teams are of equal caliber to Texas and should live by the same rules. There's no chance. No chance that 138 should be on the same level as Notre Dame, right, or Florida or Texas A&M or USC or Ohio State, Michigan. They're just different level brands, but you have people out there that are saying, oh, no, wait a minute, what about me? No, I'm sorry, you're in AA. You're in single A. There's difference between the major leagues and where you're at. Yet, somehow, some way, people think that the world should be equal. And it's just not. I mean, Texas has a 100+ year history of caring about this sport. And the people it puts, put the product it puts on the field, I just feel like there are too many situations out there where we're unfortunately going to have to say Sacramento State, Fresno State, y'all are on the same level as Texas. If we're going to pay players, they need to have the same cap as you. Do the Asheville Tourists have the same freaking salary cap as the New York Yankees? No.
Yeah.
But there's about 130. By the way, there's about 130 minor league baseball teams and 30 Major League Baseball teams. That's really the parameters that we're talking about. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Go ahead, CJ.
I was just going to say, in all of this, including the bill that was proposed or at least introduced today, what's been at the forefront for me is what does that do? Should the SEC and the Big Ten break away to the Olympic sports, to the other basketballs, to volleyballs, the softballs, the baseballs? Look, that's going to be a tough navigation, a tough speed bump for whoever decides to ultimately say, hey, it's time, right, for the SEC or the Big Ten to go their separate ways. Again, it's down the road, but considering, what we heard from Kirby Smart on Tuesday, you sit there and say, okay, how much would that then trickle down and affect those other sports? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is.
We don't have all the answers, TJ. So to pretend like we do is wrong, but you can fix things. And I do think there are parts of this bill that are valuable. I think limiting agent fees to 5% is a tremendous positive. Okay. Everybody and their brother thinks that's a good idea, except for the agents. It's just, that's the way it is. I think that now, and I want to say this, I don't categorize all agents in the same position, just like I don't categorize all lawyers in the same negative light. You know what I mean? There are differences, or cast them all in the same light. But as we look at this situation, we've got to take bites at the apple and get things fixed. My problem is that this bill also tries to codify parts of the House settlement that is already proven unworkable. or untenable as it exists today.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got, I just left, I saw one of the media things I got involved with today was Brian Seeley, the head of the College Sports Commission, was there. And we were talking to him and listening to him. And, you know, he's like, look, the rules are what the rules are. I can't tell you that I'm going to approve stuff that's not supposed to be approved. So when you go out there and spend $40 million, if you don't have that money apportioned right, your deal's going to hang up. If y'all want to go change the rules, I'll adjudicate those rules, the new ones. But the ones y'all have given me right now, I'm hanging up millions and millions upon millions, $100 million plus right now in fee, or not in fees, but in NIL. That's just not going to go through. And nothing's changing about that, because reality is that it's pay for play. And you can cloak it however you want. It is what it is. And I feel like codifying the House settlement is just, you're just adding bad idea upon bad idea. I do like the idea of a college sports commission. I think they should have greater powers, et cetera, but and perhaps a different mission at some level, or an increased mission, I guess. But I'm not one to sit here and say that I've got all the answers, or that we can get all the answers right away. It's too much.
Bobby, you got a couple more minutes to hang out, because we got a super chat, and I've actually got a question that I want to ask you. But we got to thank one of our sponsors here at On Texas Football for the Wednesday night live stream. Shout out to Rogue Shop. RogueShop.com is where you need to head, because Rogue Shop is bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. Rogue Shop ships nationwide. Make sure you use the promo code ONTexas for a special discount when you're at RogueShop.com. Rogue Shop has it all, from oils and creams to flour and gummies. Again, that's RogueShop.com. Use the code ONTexas for a special discount. And a big thank you to Rogue Shop for sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. All right, Bobby Silverspur Sicko, to what you were just talking about, actually has a super chat. It says, Bobby, does this new bill actually give any power to the CSC?
This would, but not necessarily in the way they're thinking. You gotta, until we get our arms truly around a salary cap that works, and 20 million ain't it. There's going to be people looking for loopholes, because the market says it'll bear more than that. And so the bill can actually try to do that. The bill won't accomplish it. There are already teams out there right now that are not playing within the rules of NIL.
Right.
You know, they're paying finder's fees to potential agents for players. There's a number of different things going on in college football right now that's really ugly and really unfortunate. I'm not saying some of those things haven't gone on forever, but does it give any power? The answer is yes. Does it give the type of power the way it should, and in a way that actually would be long-term effective? I don't think so.
Bobby, real quick, I know you got to run. We appreciate the time tonight. As you've looked through this bill again, you and myself and Hank South did a video here on the channel when this broke earlier today. You said it best, the devil's in the details. As you've gone through this, Bobby, as you've talked to people, is there one thing in this bill on both ends of the spectrum they said, yes, this absolutely needs to get done, it should get done, it should pass? And likewise, is there one thing that you're hearing that there's no way this is going to get through?
I think there are multiple things that should get through. I think there are multiple. I think the agent situation should absolutely get through. That I think everybody here is nodding their head, and even if you're listening, and if you're a good agent, you're nodding your head yes, in my opinion. Okay, and that's only for rev share. I'm not talking about separately sourced true NIL deals, but 5% is very gracious. That's what the NHL does. Major League Baseball does 4%. NFL only gives their agents 3%. So by comparison, that is still a large percentage of the pie when it comes to that. Other elements that I like, they talked about age eligibility and or no two-way contract players that can play in the G League and in college basketball. I think everybody probably nods their head at that. This side of Will Wade and Nate Oates in college basketball, I think Sean Miller's nodding his head on that, and most people are. A couple of others that I think that I really like. I like the idea of an ombudsman or whistleblower value in this component. And what they would do is, if they see something, you get some level of immunity about what you saw and/or protection. And I think that could be helpful. But I'd have to go through every single line item.
Yeah,
there are some things that just are non-starters. This whole idea that you have to play a rival. This idea that you have to play one of your 10 rivals if you back out of this. The fact that you're telling me the SEC and Big Ten can't expand if they want to, that doesn't make sense. Why not? You're telling me that Florida State, if they wanted to, couldn't join the SEC if they got extended an offer. Why would you stop Florida State from that? There are little things like that. Not a fan of a lot of the pieces of it, but I think that we're going to end up with a really trimmed down version of this bill that may have a chance to pass.
Yeah, my last question for you, Bobby, and again, I know it's been a busy day, so thank you for joining us.
I'm free for however long you need me here. I'm good.
I couldn't help but chuckle first time going through this bill. Some of the bullet points that we saw, the Lane Kiffin Act, essentially. But seeing that and thinking just how realistic there's no way that feasibly they could say, hey, here's the start and end time for a coach to be hired, when a university could theoretically do it whenever they want it or please.
They try to do that in the NFL, right? Where NFL coaches can't leave until after the season. They can't leave for similar jobs even. Offensive coordinators can't leave a team during a Super Bowl run to go take a job somewhere else. They can't even interview. But you know what? Those coaches have a league-wide contract. These don't. And they're going to be told, they're saying that even if you don't have a league-wide contract, we're going to make you not be able to do this. I was saying this to Jeff and Hank earlier. Imagine you're a hotshot offensive coordinator. Imagine you're Will Muschamp back in the day, 2008. You go from Texas, you're doing well. Texas, 2008, 2009, 2010, you have a good defense, but team doesn't do well. You couldn't have left potentially Texas at that time, because now Texas didn't end up having a bowl game that year, but they would have stopped you from even interviewing for Florida. Yeah. That's not. You're going to have guys that don't want to be offensive and defensive coordinators because they won't be considered key employees. I mean, it's overly broad. It's people trying to get into things that they shouldn't get into. I mean, the Lane Kiffin rule it needs to go the way of the dodo bird. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, and maybe that's trying to legislate dumb is, or amoral is not an easy way to go. If that's what you think Lane Kiffin did. And I'm not making that judgment, by the way, but that's clearly what this bill says. Lane Kiffin left them high and dry. No, he didn't. He went and took, $5 million more dollars, just like anybody else would, most likely.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, CJ. You don't want to, it's like you don't even, if you're a coach, you want to go be like the assistant offensive coordinator or something so you can get a head coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a backwards. It was clearly that law was clearly written by someone that has never been in a football office before. That's my opinion.
100%.
Or if they've been one where they were a donor, like Cody Campbell, telling other people what they can and can't do.
All right. Well, Bobby, we'll let you go ahead and finish off your evening however you wish down in Florida. Again, we're talking about the Protect College Sports Act of 2026. Bobby's going to break that down. He's broken it down here on the channel. We'll continue to do so. And bright and early, Bobby, coffee and football. Jerry will be talking recruiting. You'll be talking about this and all matters in Destin. Bobby, I'll forget the schedule down there. SEC meetings will wrap up tomorrow or one more day?
They wrap tomorrow. Greg Sankey will meet with the media around 5. We do not have any scheduled time with either Steve Sarkisian, Sean Miller, Vic Schaefer, or Chris Del Conte tomorrow, but they could be circling around the hotel a little, if that makes sense. And Del Conte certainly has major meetings still to go tomorrow. Sankey closes it up around 4:30 tomorrow, I believe.
Silver Spur Sicko wants to remind you, Bobby, don't forget your sunscreen while you're doing
It's all overcast in Dustin this week. It's all overcast.
All right, Bobby, get a good night's sleep and be ready to rock and roll tomorrow. Thanks for the time tonight. It's much appreciated.
Hook 'em, guys.
All right. CJ and I'll get back to it in just a second. Something that we wanted to talk about at the top, but we'll get to it right after this. Right after I remind everybody that this edition of On Texas Football, this Wednesday night live stream, is brought to you by Prize Picks. We're about to be in the dog days of summer, and everything is rolling on the sports calendar. Basketball playoffs, baseball's in full swing, a lot's going on, and Prize Picks adds more fun to your favorite sports. Every possession, every at-bat, you're locked in from start to finish. You're not just watching anymore. You got a little juice on it. And the best part about Prize Picks is it's easy. More or less on player stats is all you got to worry about. Just build your lineup, submit it, and you're good to go in about 60 seconds. You can go across multiple sports or stick with one and ride it. Whatever's on, it's going to fit with Prize Picks. We have been on a heater lately, and we're going to try to continue that today. We've got White Sox pitcher Davis Martin to have more than 5.5 strikeouts. He's been a force on the mound, hasn't had less than 7 in the last 30 days. We're also taking some WNBA action, taking Atlanta guard Alicia Gray to have more than 14.5 points. She's averaging nearly 22 over her last 5 games. We're trusting our gut, and that's exactly what you do with Prize Picks. Make your picks, lock it in. Now, every single moment actually means something. Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including right here in the great state of Texas. So if you haven't jumped in yet, now is the time. Just download the Prize Picks app. Use the code HMA. Play $5 and you'll get $50 in lineups instantly. Again, the code HMA when you download the app. 5 gets you 50. It really is that simple. And as always, please remember to play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks. All right, CJ, we talked about the Notre Dame game, and I want to make sure we got that out of the way. But we got some kickoff times today, and you and I both put it out on the Twitter machine. Texas State fans making the trip from San Marcos or wherever in the state of Texas, Longhorn fans, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. A 2:30 kickoff. Labor Day weekend. CJ, you talk about bringing sunscreen. You'll need it because it's going to be should be toasty for the Longhorns and the Bobcats that day.
Yeah, it is. And I know a lot of Texas fans aren't thrilled with the 2:30 kickoff for the first weekend of the year, but you know, it feels like that's just going to be the case moving forward. You'll have one in the first 3 weeks of the season. It is on ESPN, so for the folks that want to stay at home, you get it, right? You get it on, regular cable TV, if you will. The interesting one, and this is really, Jeff, where we've seen Texas put up some duds over the last few years, is that third or fourth game, which is under the lights. You know, it's not against a great opponent. This year, UTSA, which is more than capable of putting up a fight against Texas. SEC Network Plus, that to me is a game that Texas kind of sleepwalks into and says, all right, you know, we just had our marquee non-conference against Ohio State. We have Tennessee the next week. Let's just get through it, right? So we've seen it in the past, but that's the one that I'm looking at saying, okay, is 7 o'clock really where you want that game to be? It is under the lights. It's not going to be as hot. It's going to be really interesting to see what kind of Texas comes out for that game week 3 against UTSA.
Yeah, you go back, even the 2023 team, CJ, like they had that game against Wyoming where that was an uncomfortably tight game well into the second half, and Texas ends up pulling away late. And the 24 team, it wasn't anything to do with the opponent or the score, but Quinn Ewers got hurt in non-conference play that year. So get through non-conference play without just a dud that everybody agrees like it's objectively bad, or no significant injuries, and I think you'd be fine with non-conference play. Yes, thankfully the UTSA game is going to be a 7:00 start. Interesting though that I guess if you put it in prime time, it's got to be on either SEC Network proper or Plus. Interesting though, Texas State getting the ESPN treatment opening weekend. Maybe CJ, maybe that one's like that Colorado State game a few years ago, but there's a reason why when you look at all the metrics, whether you're looking at Bill Connolly's SP Plus or other guys at CBS Sports ranked it, a lot of people look at Texas as having the toughest schedule in the country. Those are two bowl teams last year. And Texas State, I don't know if they'll be able to slow down the Texas offense like at all in any way, shape, or form. They'll be able to score like with Brad Jackson. That'll be a pretty good test for Will Muschamp's defense. And CJ, anytime you're facing a Jeff Traylor coach team, whether they're outmanned or not, you're going to have a fight on your hands for 4 quarters.
Yeah, and for both of these teams, like this is a game where it's very easy to pitch. The school never offered you. They never looked your way. This is the time to come back and prove them why they were wrong. So for Texas State specifically, look, I think that's at the moment a higher quality team or caliber team than UTSA. And again, we've seen it over the past few years. G.J. Kinney's done a tremendous job getting that program where it is today. And where it is today is a team that could give Texas fits if Texas doesn't bring their A game. I do think the kickoff week 1, knowing how much this team has bought in from the early Culture Wednesdays to the amount of talent that Texas has had accumulate through the portal, through the high school ranks, to retention from the NFL draft, they're going to come ready to rock and roll and really just kind of showcase why they should be in a position to compete nationally. But that's not going to be a rollover game not for 60 minutes. It might for the final 25 or 30, but not for the full 60.
So if you're keeping score at home, kickoff times for the non-conference slate are locked in. Texas State at 2:30. You got primetime games for Ohio State. So obviously that's going to be an ABC game. Maybe it's the most viewed college football game of the season. It's got the potential to be. That'll be big. And then the UTSA game is going to be a 7:00 kick. CJ, the only other game we have a time for right now is Texas A&M on Black Friday. That's a primetime game. It's interesting that the Oklahoma game hasn't had a time assigned yet. It's either going to be 11 o'clock or 2:30. We know that it'll be one of those two. June 10th is the day. I believe that's going to be 6:00 Central on SEC Network. All of the unannounced kickoff times for SEC games will be revealed June 10th on that show on SEC Network. So mark that down, June 10th. If you want to know, hey, what time is the rest of the game is going to be, June 10th is going to be that. And I'm sure, CJ, there's going to be some flexes in there just in case you want to move a game to prime time or however you want to jockey it. So I'm sure there'll be some flexes in there. But June 10th, CJ, we should have a general idea of what the 2026 schedule looks like in terms of kickoff times.
Yeah, and look, of the 4 games that have already been announced, Texas has 3 games that are going to be under the lights, right? So when we sit here and talk about just how many could they have, Jeff, I don't know if that number gets to 6. Like, I don't think there's many teams in the history of the sport, at least not recently, that have played every single or half of their games under the lights. But Texas, when you look at traveling to Death Valley, to traveling to Knoxville, I even think, hey, it wouldn't shock me for Texas and Missouri to get the way late kickoff time. There's going to be plenty more opportunities for Texas to play at night. Now, do they bring it? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I mean, some of these SEC schools, like, you got to give them at least a couple of conference night games. Like, you got to throw your fans a bone, and maybe that's the game for Missouri. We'll see. Yeah. But we'll get back to your questions, your comments, everything right after we give another shout out to one of our sponsors, Laura Baker, accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker, longtime sponsor of Football Theory here on the channel. She is sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, she's a longtime Austin real estate expert. So for all of your real estate needs in the greater Austin area, give Laura a shout, 512-784-0505. Again, that's 512-784-0505. 05. And we want to give a big shout out to Laura Baker, not just for her sponsorship of Football Theory here on the channel, but of her sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. CJ, can we just go ahead and get this out of the way? I agree. I can't remember who said it here in the chat, but yes, Stephen Houston said it. Texas OU will be at 2:30. That won't be changing. Most likely, it's going to be 2:30. There's a chance it could be at 11. I'm glad we've reached the point where I no longer have to explain to people why a Texas OU night game at the Cotton Bowl is it's a disaster waiting to happen. It is in no way, shape, or form a good idea that should ever be entertained.
Yeah, listen to that, Matthew, and listen to it again. But no, I was against moving that game to 2:30. I loved it at 11, and I don't typically look. I'm not Jeff. I'm not opinionated about much, right? But I like actually 11 a.m. kicks more than 2:30. I don't know what it is. I think as the college football fan in me, I like the idea of I get to one game early, I watch the entire of it, then I get to watch the second half of the mid slate, and then the entirety of the night slate. And when you go to a 2:30 game, you miss the back half of the first slate and miss probably the first half of the last slate. So I think that's why, as the college football fan in me says, all right, I like it at 11 or 7. But for that game in particular, I thought it was just right waking up early in the morning, going to go have a wax beer and a corn dog at 9 o'clock and saying, all right, this is how I'm going to spend my day, just getting beat to hell by the sun. So I understand 2:30. They've had it before. Last year, obviously, I thought went really well for Texas. But, we'll see if that opinion transcends more and more towards the 2:30 time after this year.
Couple things. I think when you're covering the game, the 11 o'clock kick is awesome.
Yes.
Yes, no question. I'm no longer in that realm, but for you, CJ, yes, I understand why 11 o'clock is huge. The other two things, you haven't had a real Texas OU experience until you've done one, or some people can say they've done both. Either you overslept your alarm and had a mad dash to the Cotton Bowl trying to get there on time, or you just slept in your car somewhere near the fairgrounds and just got a nap and then walked. There is a member of the On Texas football staff who may have done that, and maybe more than one member of the OTF staff has done that. But yes, that does happen. CJ, have you done either of those? Either overslept the alarm or slept in your car and just said, screw it, I'll just get a nap and then walk to the game?
I've not overslept. I'm typically pretty good. That first alarm, I kind of get anxious the night before where I just go, okay, it's like flying, when you have a flight the next morning, you're like, how do I, prepare so that I'm not rushed, is kind of how I view things. It's one of the few good traits or, practices that I have, Jeff. But I've also not slept in a car. I have thought about it. And this year, fortunately, I won't have to, but I have thought about it before, especially that late 2024 College Station exit, where I was just like, dude, this is exhausting. Get me home or get me to a bed. But I haven't had to do it yet. Thank goodness for sugar-free Red Bulls.
Yeah. I'll say this, though, with sugar-free anything, be careful. There was a time where I was coming home from a recruiting event. I think it was coming home from Houston, and got some shout out to Buc-ee's. The greatness that is Buc-ee's, even though, yes, I know an Aggie owns it, whatever. I got some sugar-free gummy worms, and I was like, man, did somebody rib me with these? And then I checked on the bag that excessive amounts of sugar alcohol can jack with your stomach. So, yes, be advised, sugar-free sounds great until you have to unleash the demon, which at that point is pretty rough. So just throw that out there. I don't want
that's a good warning there, Jeff. And Arrow Kits, you are absolutely correct. I'm a bad flyer. It's an easy skill to have. It's easy to just be really good at getting to the airport, the correct airport, and then getting to the correct gate. We'll get there. We'll get there one year.
Man, CJ, I know you've got that. Obviously, if anybody doesn't know, Arrow Kits is ribbing CJ for the Michigan trip a few years ago. But man, there were some of those Big 12 games, like a Big 12 night game, like an Iowa State or a Kansas State, especially like K-State. I don't think people realize how far away Manhattan is from Kansas City. Like Lawrence is like from the Kansas City airport, Lawrence is like 30, 45 minutes. Dude, Manhattan's like 2.5 hours out to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That drive is soul crushing. Driving back to like you stay at the Kansas City Airport Marriott, like that is a soul crushing drive. Like driving back from the Ole Miss game in 2012 was an 8 o'clock local kickoff. I think I got back to Memphis. It was like 4, 5 in the morning. Like you don't even sleep. Like you just throw some water on your face, pack your bags, and just go to the airport.
I do have a funny story, and I don't think he'll be mad, but yeah. So after Starkville this year, Jeff, that game ends. It went obviously way later, and I had an early flight out of Jacksonville. From Starkville to Jackson is about 2 hours, 15 minutes from the drive from Starkville from the university. And so I knew that, what good does it have to do if I have to go back to my hotel, film a couple shows, react, get some tweets and an article ready? Screw it. All right, we're not sleeping tonight. We're just going to go to the Jackson airport immediately. So that meant leaving Starkville at midnight, 2.5 hour drive. I get to Jackson, Mississippi. It's probably 1:45. I drove pretty quickly. And I was like, all right, like, do I really want to just go sit inside the lobby at Jackson airport? The answer was no. So what I did instead is I went to an IHOP, or not an IHOP, a Waffle House in Jackson, Mississippi at 1:45 on a Saturday after night. We saw some characters. We saw some drinks thrown. But we had a great meal, and we were right next to the airport. So 30 minutes later, walked right on in to the Jackson airport. And that was when I had to tell Coach and Rod about my movies that were on my list. So we spent the next 2 hours watching Training Day inside of the Jackson airport, said hello to the Littleton family as they were walking in, going to another early morning flight. But I tweeted out a photo of the Waffle House that I was at saying nothing better than this. And I guess the Texas team had just gotten home, because I got a text from Anthony Hill saying, good choice on the food. And it made me laugh so hard that it wasn't a great place to be, but everybody knows when you see the Waffle House sign, that means you had a great meal, no doubt.
Man, it's funny. My first Waffle House experience was that I can remember was related to Texas athletics. Because if you remember, CJ, a couple years ago, Texas ends up in the NCAA baseball tournament. They ended up playing a super regional in Greenville that's hosted by East Carolina. And the winner take all game, there was a rain delay. So I'm not done. Like, I think the game ends at like 1 a.m. Oh. And by the time you go post game and you get done, right, man, like it's like 4 a.m. and I got to drive back to Kinston, which is like an hour away. The only thing open was Waffle House. So I said, hey, I'm going to celebrate a Texas baseball super regional by going to Waffle House. And then 2023, the next year when Texas was in the NCAA tournament, I don't know why, but I just randomly ate Waffle House, and they won the game against Colgate, ate Waffle House. They beat Penn State. And then when they went to Kansas City, shout out to Kevin Flaherty, who's actually now the director of high school relations at KU. I was staying at Kevin's house since the tournament was in Kansas City. There's a Waffle House right off of the I-35 exit to his house. I was like, well, looks like I'm going to see if the good luck continues. I'm going to keep eating Waffle House. And unfortunately, Dylan DeSue's foot didn't cooperate with my Waffle House diet. Otherwise, CJ, I would have credited Waffle House with Texas making a Final Four run.
There are good vibes there, Jeff. That might, again, it's only been a one-stop trend so far in Starkville, but look, we're going to be back in Atlanta at some point. I'll be stopping at Waffle Houses wherever they got them.
There's a Waffle House actually near us now. There's a Waffle House in Kyle, so at least there's one reasonably close by. You thinking about it? Thinking about it?
That might be like we'll see. We'll see how the road goes, but there's I think there's an IHOP right down the road here, and then there's a Denny's right by the Dish up there. So no Waffle House, but maybe that's a petition, or maybe that's a franchise. I'll get Adam Ludicky on the phone and say, how about we start a Waffle House in downtown Austin?
Man, shout out to Andy Ludicky, My Perfect Franchise, for sponsoring the Wednesday night live stream. Maybe franchise ownership, CJ, something you need to look into. Hey, CJ, we started the show talking about Jordan Scruggs maybe taking the young prodigy title for you. I like Cisco's idea. Run a 40 for the title 40-yard dash between you and Jordan Scruggs.
I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea at all. I was thinking about this the other day, Jeff. When was the last time I ran full speed for any reason? Good Lord, I don't know.
It was some kid emergency at the house. Like my daughter fell or something, and I had to sprint from one end of the house to the other. That's that. And this morning I sprang out of bed pretty quick because I heard the cat throwing up. So it's stuff like that at this point in my life. That like that's how I get my exercise. Like I just have to spring into action for emergency situations. But at any rate, that is going to do. That's probably a pretty good place to stop. So hey, we covered plenty of the Notre Dame series being in the balance. College football playoff expansion. CDC didn't come out and say he prefers to stay at 12, but he said, hey, maybe everybody just needs to pump the brakes a little bit. Greg Sankey did come out today and say that the SEC prefers to go to 16 if it does expand. Talked plenty about the Protect College Sports Act of 2026 that was brought into public forum today. Talked about kickoff time. So plenty we covered here. Plenty we'll continue to cover on the channel, and plenty we'll cover over at ontexasfootball.com. So, CJ, thank you for the Sandman. Sandman and Silver Spurs Sicko are not allowed to miss Wednesdays anymore because they keep the chat live. So you two are on the hook for Wednesday night live streams from now on. So just make sure you guys are here. And thanks to not just those two jokers, but to everybody who kept it lively in the chat. The super chats were much appreciated. Also, thanks to Jerry and Bobby for popping on. Jerry obviously breaking down the news of Ishmael Kamara not taking official visits this summer, and Bobby talking about all the comings and goings in Destin. So CJ, like I said, thank you for the knowledge, the intel, the expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes doing the great job that he does producing it and making the On Texas Football YouTube channel go. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, between the SEC meetings and recruiting alone, you're not going to want to miss any of our coverage over there. Make sure you get over to the website. New subscribers, we got a limited time offer for you, $3 for your first 3 months of access at ontexasfootball.com. Make sure you sign up if you're not already with official visit season right around the corner. That alone is going to be worth the price of admission. So make sure you get over to ontexasfootball.com. Again, new subscribers, $3 for your first 3 months of access. Make sure you hit that like button before we wrap this up. Make sure that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel, and make sure you've got those notifications set so that way anytime we drop a new video or we go live, you're not going to miss any of our Longhorn coverage or breaking news. Got any questions, comments, concerns, airing of grievances, whatever it is, make sure you direct it to Bobby, Jerry, and Blake bright and early tomorrow morning on Coffee and Football. CJ will be back. CJ, you're on the live stream tomorrow night, right?
Tomorrow night.
The winning drive crew, we'll still call it that, with CJ, Rod Babers, and the coach Bob Shipley will be on the live stream tomorrow. So, with that as the backdrop, as we wrap this up, for CJ, for Matthew, for Bobby and Jerry, and the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
Thank you.